What's up, guys? This is What If Deku got one for all early. In this What If, Deku gets one for all whenever he meets All Might. He still saved Bakugo, but in this version, right then is when All Might gave him one for all. He plucked the hair and gave it to Deku, saying, "Eat. You'll become strong, my boy." Not thinking that, wait, I inherited at 100%. He's not strong enough he'll kill himself. This is when 100% of Prime All Might's strength goes to Deku, blowing out his arms, his back, everything. Everywhere you see a scar in this is wherever his veins blew out of his arms. Everything. On his back, big, blowout of where the skin was. Just really bad looking injuries. He is that messed up. All Might thinks he just accidentally killed someone with his power. And he doesn't even think anything else. He might think One for All has been lost forever, but he just knows he was just unable to do anything. The kid's killed. Just straight up seems dead. As this is when Deku would hit the floor, except for one thing. All Might had just about no time left in his big form, but he didn't let that stop him. He went into it for only a second. As you can see, blood spewing out of his mouth as he grabbed Deku and jumped full speed to Recovery Girl, landing in front of her office, blood dripping from his mouth as he would hit the floor onto a knee, asking her to heal the boy. As All Might would pass out, he would wake up 2 hours later in the hospital next to Deku. As you could see, very bloodied up. As you could see, he was healed. He was better since he was just bashed, since he was hurt already. It didn't matter much. He just got healed. But then we see Deku. He's in worse condition than All Might ever was, except for his bad injury. He's barely even able to be alive. And Recovery Girl says, if you hadn't gotten him to me when you did, he would have been dead now. All Might, you know that power is strong, right? You didn't think about what would happen if a boy had it then, right? Yes, Recovery Girl, with tears in his eyes, as he would grab her, saying, "Thank you for healing my protege. That boy is our only hope. As much injuries as you put him in, he may have to find a new successor. He may have to get rid of his own power, or else it would kill him." But this is when Deku wakes up saying, "No, I won't get rid of the power. I will use it," as he barely lifts one arm. As even though he looks this bad, he's still Deku. He's not gonna give up. He would stand up and look eye to eye with All Might, saying, "Thank you, All Might, for giving me your power." This is when All Might notices something. The kid's not as frail as he looked before. He has grown? Recovery Girl explains this. While his muscles were torn very badly whenever she healed him, all those muscles regrew. His bones were all shattered. Those are now harder than they were before because they were healed perfectly all throughout them. They'll never break in the same place unless something even harder hits him. Unless he threw a full force punch with only one little arm using muscle, then it won't kill him. This is when she explains how thick his bones have really become. They're durable enough to where they're about 40 times thicker than most of people's. Right now, I'd say his skeleton is on par with Kirishima's hardening ability. Hearing this, she was surprised. As hearing this, they were all surprised, except for her, because she's the one who took the measurements and everything. His muscles are thick enough to where most blades won't even pierce him, unless struck with a lot of force, and even then, it'll barely tear the skin, if anything. As Deku would stand up and go to his mother, she saw how tall he'd gotten. She asked him what happened and why he was covered in scars, and he told her, with the help of All Might, who said he was Toshinori Yagi, he had helped the boy after getting hit by a truck. That's what he said happened. He got hit by a truck, which was believable. He was that messed up. Showing her exactly what he looked like, how beaten up he was, and everything. This is when it was asked, how is he still alive if he got hit by a truck? Well, this is when Toshinori explained that he had tried getting Deku to the hospital and found Recovery Girl. the hero. Hearing this, Inko was ecstatic and so thankful to Toshinori. But then she asks Toshinori to stay for dinner. And he does. He enjoys it and then goes home. The next morning, since he has Deku's number, he texts him, "Meet me at the beach." They have 11 months to train. They go to the beach, and what do they do the first thing? He's given the task to clean the beach. His stronger muscles and larger and bigger physique make it easier to do. His workout plan was far harder to do than it was before, though, since he still really can't use 100% of One for All. But All Might tried telling him try using less percentages. But this is when All Might sees something. Deku could handle 80%. Hell, 90% wouldn't break a bone. But 100% does mess him up pretty bad. It just breaks one bone or dislocates it. That's all it really does. Now, Recovery Girl does fix him up every time. And he never breaks the same arm in the same place twice. His muscles get even bigger. Though Deku tries something out he didn't expect to work. A full force, 100%, full body power going through his full force. It strained him, and he could only do it for a second, but it broke a lot of things. It just tore mainly muscle, though, and cracked the bones. Recovery Girl was there, though. She was watching what happened, healed him, and he noticed something. His healing was faster now. He felt what he could do. Now he could use up to 90% of All Might's prime 100%. Without even strain, he didn't feel anything. He didn't know how much he was using, though, since he felt like he was just a little bit more needed. At the end of the 9 months, he showed Recovery Girl his full force. The mountain of trash he one-shot to be out of the map. He sent it way out in space. Looked eye to eye with All Might and said, "All Might, I've finally done it. I've reached the power you needed me at." As this is when All Might said, "You have, my boy. You've reached the strength I had at my peak. 100% of One for All." As this is when All Might kept getting him to train up, and even showed his buff form for a second for a full force grab. If you've ever seen the movie Predator, it's like that. How Arnold and that other dude grabbed hands like that, that's what you see. How jacked they both are. Deku, who's probably put on about 50 to 60 pounds of muscle in this point in time, is just in great shape. And he's also gained about 4 inches in height. He's probably one of the taller characters in My Hero now. Not as tall as All Might, but he's gaining there. He knows that he's still growing, and he has to eat a lot to maintain his physique. All Might explains, well, you do have a lot more muscles, they take a lot more energy. Which made sense. As Deku would walk in and walk straight into the thing, and he was still muttering. He's still the same mental Deku. He's just strong as shit. But in this version, when Ida points at him, he had a little bit of confidence, and he had said, "Alright, I'm sorry," as he sat down. But then whenever they had the test, Deku noticed he was faster than them. They're really slow. But he spent too much time observing how everyone else seemed to be beneath him to notice... Hold on a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. My stupid little brother thinks it's funny to start being annoying. Anyway, as he would throw a full force punch, he thought it was strong. He didn't know how much he threw, and he threw it at a 3-pointer. That wasn't expecting it to just go exploding. As it straight up ripped apart a 3-pointer, Deku, seeing that the fragments were flying at the Ida kid. Sorry about that, guys. Fragments of a 3-pointer were flying at Ida. As he went to put his arm up to protect himself, he was stopped, as Deku had palm striked it backwards. Mainly just putting a palm out to try slowing it down, which it did. It stopped all of the momentum of it, and it just hit, and then he kind of went full speed to make it and slammed it down to the floor, which did cause a slight little earthquake, since he wasn't hitting that hard. But then he noticed he'd only gotten 1 3-pointer this whole time. Now he absolutely shattered it, but still. only worth 3 points. As he noticed, he was behind everyone else. These 3 points weren't enough. But that's when he sees the 0-pointer. He sees how just huge this thing is. As it threw one, as this is when Deku thought, oh no, as he saw Uraraka as everyone else ran away. As he leapt into action, he, for some reason, said, United States of Smash, 1,000,000,000%! One shot. As he erased the thing from existence, about 20 miles away, you could still see dents in the earth. Luckily for Deku, where he punched it, mainly it was like just a lot of force. It knocked over trees, everything. It didn't hit anyone else. It just destroyed a good portion of forest and cracked a mountain. As he said, wow, I wasn't expecting it to do all that. As he noticed his right arm was straight up removed from where it was right. It was literally just slabbling in the wind, kind of like it was in canon, but his legs were fine. As he started to fall, he would land on them perfectly. And Uraraka, he would ask if she was okay. As she would say her foot was messed up, Deku picked her up with one arm and carried her to Recovery Girl, with his other arm flobbling around in the distance and on the side. She asked if he was okay. He was honest. That hurt like hell. He went too much force into his punch than he was expecting. He just thought it would need it. He wasn't expecting that he'd hit so hard that it would just erase it. As Eraserhead, all the other teachers were watching this saying, God damn. This is when all of them commented, All Might, what did you do with this kid? Why? That was a punch strong enough to make your prime punch look like jack shit. As this is when All Might said, yeah, that was 1,000,000% United States of Smash. That is a one punch kind of thing. Okay, how strong would you rank that? Exactly what it is. It's 1,000,000%. 1% is one of me. 100% is one of me. From my peak. So he's strong. He was throwing a lot of it. He was throwing 10,000 times my full force prime. I admit, going to 1,000,000% did rip his arm apart, but Recovery Girl will be able to heal him, which she barely was able to heal his right arm, and it took about a day for it to fully come back to 100%. Noting that he kept working out and everything. All Might gave him a new plan every few days because he kept outgrowing the old one. As he became strong enough, Deku was now able to throw one punch at 100%, like it was normally. To him, it was like his base form. He stayed 100%. Although he did gain a little bit of height and size over the 2 weeks, he was still the same green-haired kid, except for the fact he was more scarred up and everything even more. Thing is, whenever he threw that punch, he wasn't expecting how much it would blow away. Instead of just blowing off his sleeve, it blew off his entire shirt. So they saw all the injuries on him as he landed. As he would walk back to... Since he would then got the same letter from UA and even walked in the same way. As he took steps in, he was surprised how big the door was. He said it made sense. As he walks in the door, he says hello. As he sees Ida. Ida's starting to wave his hand. Deku grabs it out of the air with 2 fingers, saying, Stop waving your hand in my face. It's getting really annoying. Uraraka would say, Hey, I know you, turning to Deku. As Deku would say, hello. Oh, I remember you. I saved you from the 0-pointer. Yeah. I think he hit a little too overkill. Yeah, no kidding. So how's your arm? As he showed it, it was good as new. Although it was still covered in scars. As he would start to ask her, so what's up? You know, just going to class. Nice. As then Bako would start talking shit, and he would get in Deku's face. Listen, Runt, I don't know how you got here, but you're not going to do shit. I don't care how big you got. Deku looks down at Bako, saying, Shut up, Bakugo. Now. At this point, Deku's 6'4" and bulked like All Might. He basically looks like a slightly smaller version of All Might at this point. And he's looking down at Bakugo, saying, "Shut up, Bakugo. I didn't come here to deal with you. I came here to learn how to be a hero. Not like you know what that is." As Bakugo would get really mad, before Eraserhead even started, and Eraserhead was going to turn off his power, but then thought, you know what, I'm going to let it happen. Let's see what happens. Bakugo full force explosion to Deku. All it did was burn his shirt. Deku took it off and said, "What's good? Come on, let's go." He put his hands up and straight up, Bakugo went to throw another explosion just for Deku to punch him with no one for all, just 0% into the nose. Cracked Bakugo's nose, although Deku was laughing a little bit since he really didn't do any force into it. There was no quirk used. Since every swing Bakugo tried throwing, Deku grabbed it out of the air and slapped it down. In the end of it, Bakugo went with a full force explosion that would hit Uraraka. Because he was mad, he didn't care where he was aiming. Deku got in the way as it blew him up, as it hit him in the chest. He was annoyed. He grabbed Bakugo by the face. He grabbed Bakugo straight by his face and slammed him in the wall, saying, "Don't you ever aim that attack at someone. Not her. No one here. I will take care of you if you do it again." As Deku sets Bakugo down and walks away, this is where you hear, "That's how a true hero acts. To protect someone who could not protect themselves." As Uraraka said, "You saved me again." As Deku would say, "No worries. I'm gonna be here for you." As he would sit down a little bit, as they would hear, "Go put these on." Now there was every size in that thing, but there was one problem. The one that Deku had was comparative to his size about 2 weeks ago. He's gained about another inch on his height and a lot more muscle on his physique. So when he put it on, it was really tight. Kirishima commented how manly that Deku looked because of how jacked he was, and then commented how unmanly Bakugo was because he attacked a girl whenever he couldn't beat a guy. Kind of act like a bitch move. Mineta even called out Bakugo for being a little bitch. Bakugo went to grab Mineta by the head, just for Mineta to say, "Are you sure you want to try that? Who knows, I might do the same thing that guy did to you." As this is when Deku looked eye to eye with Bakugo, saying, "Put the guy down now." Hearing that, both hands went up and back, and he started backing up very slowly. As he got his stuff on and he went out there, Deku walks out, and all the girls just stare at him. They all got out first, before any of the guys. Now, in this version, when Mineta went to peep on them, Deku put one finger out and blocked the hole, saying, "No, you're not, Mineta." As this is when all the girls were this is when a little earphone jack stabbed into Deku's finger. He said, "Ah, what the Hey, I stopped him from peeking on y'all." As he grabbed it out the wall, saying, as he would hold it and saying, "Hey, I got him to stop peeping on y'all, would y'all not try to stab me?" "Okay, we won't do that, I'm sorry," you heard Jiro's voice. And this is when Deku noticed that Jiro was the only one Mineta didn't talk about. This is when he said, "These your jacks are pretty cool." As she would blush a little bit, as she would pull it back really fast, as Deku would smile a little bit, saying, "I hope that made her day." He could just tell all the other girls were a little bit blushing about how they all got something about them that the guys would talk about. And this is when she would walk, they would all see how ripped Deku really was, and how the shirt didn't fit him at all. The pants barely fit him, but then they were really tight, like skin tight. So they could see how ripped his physique was. By the way, guys, this is going to be an 18+, so get ready for it. As all the girls would just marvel at how ripped his body was, he would laugh a little bit as he would actually comment to Aizawa, "I think it's a little small, don't you think?" Aizawa would say, "If you have a problem with the shirt size, you can take it off." You know they're connected, don't you? Yeah. So what are you gonna do? as Deku would simply just take his finger, drag it across, as he would actively do that to tear it up. He would tear the shirt portion off and just throw it off. As he said, much better. As I was saying, I figured you'd be the one to do that. Wait, really? Yes, that's why I have a special pair for just you. They're only pants. Makes sense. Why didn't you give those to me? Because I thought it'd be funny watching you try putting the other ones on. Now go get changed really quick. That just looks sloppy. He flashes away, puts it on, and flashes back in about 2 seconds. They said, how are you so fast? You'll see. As we just get to see every single one of those tasks. Deku went with 100% of one for all. Except for the ball throw. In one finger, he put 1,000,000%. As it would launch out of the atmosphere and never be seen again. Like Uraraka's, it hit infinity. And this is when Uraraka said, wow, our scores matched on that one. As his speed was straight up 0.000000001 seconds. That's how fast his little jet was. Keep in mind, it didn't take that long to be that fast. Like, I think it took like 4 seconds or 3 for Ida to clear it, and Deku straight speed blitzed it with like 1 step. Bakugo full speed explosion didn't do very much. Everyone tried their best, and the only one who got... And the scores went into be where Deku got 100%, the highest score, on just about everything. So he was in first place. But then, the one who would be sent home would be Mineta. Now, Mineta would... Whenever someone would comment, ha ha, as you would hear Deku say no. Mineta actively shouldn't be discounted. He has great quirk for heroing. At least for stealth and everything. Explain. Think about it. Wouldn't that be a very useful one to have? He can go really fast and everything. I say let him be a hero. As this is when you would hear, alright, sure, he can be a hero. Mineta, you're not kicked out of the school. For now. Now, this is when they would go through the things, and everyone commented how just broken the strength of Deku is. Like, he was literally the number 1. And he was now called, and he was even considerably stronger than anyone else. Sorry again, guys. My brother just decided he's going to be a little dumbass and repeatedly start taunting me. He wants to mess up the video so I don't get to make one. Like he's been doing since every video I've tried making. Anyway, back to what if. As we get to see that Deku we get to see him working out before he goes to the USJ. His morning run. He wakes about 6 a.m. every morning, goes on a morning run, comes back, and is done. And yes, that's not the longest amount of time, but it's longer than most people would go on a run. And granted, he is still in high school as a freshman. As we get to see that he is more than just one for all. His no one for all backed is more powerful. And we get to see that he did, as we still have to see the event between All Might and Deku whenever they find All Might being a teacher. Now Deku was laughing a little bit, thinking, oh, this is going to be the easiest class ever. There's no way I'm going to fail a class literally taught by my favorite hero. He was right. He would never fail this class because the first day, it was a 2v2. Who did they pair up? Deku and Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida. Now, it was funny to Ida. Ida's behavior was a little bit funny to Deku. Now, this is when Deku told her to hide somewhere, anywhere, random. As Deku would go against Bakugo, Bakugo would keep trying to blow Deku up. Deku caught every explosion like it was nothing or dodged it. Now, at one point, Bakugo tries to use an explosion, and Deku went with 100% of One for All, as he would still make it launch up, but in this version, he would actually connect an elbow at 10% at the same time, bouncing Bakugo about 20 feet across the room. Keep in mind, Bakugo's maybe 5% strength, and that's in the later seasons, and in first season, Bakugo couldn't even compare to his later seasons, so he absolutely gets his ass dropped. He's like nothing has ever happened. As Bakugo is laid out on the floor and Uraraka grabbed the bomb, you hear, Deku's team has won. As they see him walk out, noting something happened. When he did that 100% punch, again, the shirt he was wearing for his hero costume blew off, literally blowing it away. He said, "God damn it." As he stops wearing shirts, he's got the green pants, and he grabs a black tank top. Not tank top. Yeah, basically tank top, muscle shirt, whatever you want to call it. Hell, even call it a wife beater. That's what it is. It's just that. It's all he grabs. As he went to grab like a pack of 30 from Walmart or whatever they have in the My Hero world. He bought like 30 packages of them just so he'd have enough. Now, then he would walk all the way back to school next day. And what's his behavior? The same as it was the day before. Thing is, we go to a little bit of a time thing where we see the USJ happen. Now, in this version, whenever the USJ happened, Deku was all there to protect the kids. But whenever they were split up by that one thing, there was a moment Deku went 100%. He ran up on the Nomu when he saw what was happening to Aizawa. And protecting Aizawa, he one-shot that Nomu, sending it flying backwards, though it was able to tank the punch, and actually, this was the only punch that showed dealt any damage. This did enough damage to send the thing flying backwards, but it wasn't destroyed. It's like damage absorption didn't work as much as Deku would say, "I know what I have to do." 100%. 200%. As he starts making 200% his base, as if it's 100%. As he starts unloading 200% punches on this Nomu. Keep in mind, these are punches strong enough to put down All for One. Yeah, it's that strong of a punch. And he's throwing hundreds of these at the Nomu. In the end, the Nomu's left, like, straight up boom outside of it. And Ida was able to make it to the heroes. They all go there. Surprisingly enough, Ida states how Deku was the one who basically launched, how Deku was their one they're fighting, and how they were worried about everyone else, since Deku can take care of himself, but he wasn't sure if anyone else there could. All Might wasn't too worried, since, hell, unless they were able to break him down, then I highly doubt they could do anything to Deku. And what does Ida tell him? They said they were there to kill you, All Might. Oh, shit. If they were there to kill him, then there may be someone who could actually beat Deku. But their biggest trump card just got knocked the fuck out. Shigaraki, basically, as All Might flies in, you get to see that Deku has taken every other villain off the chart. All the students have taken a handful out, but there's like hundreds of them that were fighting Aizawa and Deku. The ones that fought Aizawa and Canon, yeah, they weren't down yet. Deku's the one who ended their fights, mainly by just straight up knocking them all clean out. All Might jumps in to deal with Shigaraki when Shigaraki almost clicks Decay on All Might before Deku straight up boom solid back kicks Shigaraki with the kick Shigaraki didn't even see coming. As he was sent flying backwards, Kirigiri grabbed him and said, "We out of this," as they vanish. Deku huffs and puffs a little bit, saying, "Whew, those guys were stronger than they looked." All Might said, "Fill me in on what happened, because I know that wasn't their big plan to hit me with the decay quirk." As they would explain about the Nomu, and they would find about 200 feet that way, they look and see, as Shigaraki had explained what the quirks were, Deku tells All Might this, and All Might was impressed. though, hearing that Deku is trying to basically double the power of his prime, he's a little bit worried because, like, if it was that easy, it's crazy he didn't do it. It's really not that easy, so just what Deku does because he's crazy. He doesn't need shoot style or anything, he's just that good. He's just 100% normal. Though he is covered in scars, like I said. Now, as Deku would walk around, as all the girls would say, "Thank you for saving me," Sue was the first one to plant a kiss on Deku's cheek. With a smile on his face, he says, "Wow, I might do that more often." As you would hear, as Sue would be the one who's called out by all the girls, "Really? Really? You had to do that, knowing we were all going to do that." As she would say, "Ribbit," as Deku says, "Wait, what do you mean all of y'all would do that?" As next would be Uraraka. She would do that, though she would go for the lips. Then Mina, then Momo, then Asado. Well, I think that then the Invisichick, basically hitting everyone. All the girls got that shot to do the kiss. And then, with a giant smile, he walks right the fuck out. Because of the USJ, they got 2 weeks off, and Deku was smiling the whole time, and you could just see it on his face, as all the girls slipped him their number. Uraraka, the only one who didn't have a smartphone, Deku thought he would mess with that just a little bit. Since he did have a part-time job, he had enough money saved up to buy about 3 smartphones. He bought himself a new one because he wanted a new one. He bought her one because he figured, may as well. And the rest of the money was spent on new clothes. He bought himself a few new pairs of shorts and another, few packages of tank tops and a few pairs of sweatpants. That's about it. As he would keep doing that, it would just be hilarious. Since he wouldn't have much energy to waste, he wouldn't really waste any energy. He could probably fight for days on end, as he would train to be able to be unstoppable. Those 2 weeks he spent training were straight up unstoppability. He trained for as long as he could in 200%. And he noted that it wasn't 200% anymore, it was his 100%. So Deku's 100% one for all is like 2 of All Mights. Meaning he's like 2 Prime All Mights with every punch. It's like you're getting jumped by 2 of All Might in his prime every time you get a tank 1 hit from Deku. From just 1 punch, though. Just 1 is enough to basically take out anybody. And then we have to see the sports festival. The first thing was the race. Now, the first part, whenever Todoroki tried to freeze it, Deku one palm strike and just flew through it. He launched himself as he saw the next stage. He saw the 0 pointers. He knocked all of them down with 1 punch before anyone else got even close to there. Then, the tie rope, he would grab it and go at full speed. As this is when he would overtake everything with just getting to the minefield. Now, Deku reaches it first, and he figures something out. Their whole point of this is to make sure you watch where you go. It's not going to do any damage as he steps right on one, gets launched about 2 feet, noting it doesn't even hurt. It's just kind of makes you tired. As he has an idea. As he saw everyone coming up, mainly Bakugo and Todoroki. When they were coming up, Deku had a smart idea. He knew he would fuck up with the front runners. So he gathered all of the landmines, and you just hear as he palm slapped it. Doing a backflip as he did it, he landed, watching all of them feel drowsier as the mines started to explode all in their face. As Bakugo would kind of crash to the floor from his explosions rolling him away, Todoroki would kind of just crash and slide a little bit. As they were both on the ground a little bit dazed, they stood up and in rage went to strike at Deku with full ice and full explosion. Deku speed between them as they turn and hit each other with those right against each other. You hear as large flush of power would fly. Deku, doing this to mess with them, flew out the front gate saying hello. They're all at the beginning of the minefield where he put all the mines. He was past the end of it. Thing is, it took him putting all of the mines there. That's the funniest part to him. He did that only to mess with them as he stood in front of everything. As he was waiting on the rest to appear, eventually they did. They picked up teams. Deku still chose the same team. Now, did that change it? Actually, Deku really wouldn't need to choose the same team, but he still would. Now, it wasn't really different. It was just the same team did the same stuff. Although, Deku with 100% being one of the horses, as he would just basically have everyone else on his back as he would run around, and no one could catch him. He was just full speeding around. You would hear... Everyone's trying to keep up with this. They're impressed by how fast he's running around. Idu tries reciprocal burst to grab the 1 million. Want to know what happens? The only thing he's able to grab is the ground. As right before he was able to reach Deku, Deku with a smile on his face said, "Too slow," as he started doing spins around him. When he went to grab at the band, Deku moved out the way and he hit the floor. Deku started laughing, like uncontrollably, getting first place again. And then for the sports festival. Against that one dude, he'd still talk, and this is when they thought, oh no, brute force can't save it, as he would just flick the ground, as you would hear, poof. As he would be honest and yell one word, "Fuck you! That's 2 words, you idiot!" As he was hit with as a kick in the stomach is what sent the dude flying out of the ring. As he blacked out, he was like, "Ow, that hurt." This is when he said, "You have a strong quirk. Maybe one of these days I can teach you how to fight right, because getting your ass kicked like that was hilarious, but it's not right." Heard. As he hit the floor. As this is when he yelled something towards Aizawa, who wasn't badly as bandaged, but he still had the one cut under his eye. "Hey, Aizawa!" You'd hear Aizawa, "What?" "Well, you've got to teach that kid how to fight like you do. It's probably his best abilities he could get." Fair point. As you would see how just blatantly outmatched everyone else was. When he fought against Todoroki, one shot. Literally got him to use his fire just for that blow up. For him to hold his breath when Midnight used her ability and just one palm everything away. To knock him right out the ring. And then you would see when he went against the reciprocal burst. Or I don't think he went against him, so I'm going to say anytime he went against anyone... Actually, whenever he went against Bakugo, it was a 1-to-1. Bakugo went with everything he had just for Deku to just straight up curb him right out the air with a big boot. As he would bounce off the ground, ding, 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 skiing like nothing was going on. He was laid clean the fuck out. As he would be completely passed out, you would hear, "Finish him." Deku thinking it was hilarious that someone yelled, "Finish him," as he would see that Bakugo wasn't quite out the ring, he was holding himself up in the air. Sorry about that, guys. Back to the what if. As we get to see that Deku is just absolutely owned it. Now, against Bakugo, he absolutely owns it. And whenever they went to the hero things, everyone wanted Bakugo. Almost no one wanted Deku. They were confused. All the heroes were wondering, why did no one want Deku? He won the sports festival. This is when some of the heroes were honest. They couldn't do what Deku had done. They couldn't win the way he did so easily. They were worried that if he came to their provisions, he'd probably just take all their loyalties away because of how strong he really was. So they were afraid to train him. What else could they teach him? He was the strongest person they'd ever seen. Maybe even stronger than All Might. Maybe. Surprisingly enough, All Might's hero agency wouldn't accept him because they felt he was like a second him. And then Night Eyes wouldn't accept him because they don't need another powerhouse like that right now. Probably later. But not right now. But then they get to see something else. They get to see just how fucking broken he is. Sorry about that, guys. They get to see how strong Deku is when he's full force. He one-shot everything. this is when Gran Torino would still be the only one who wanted to hire Deku, because he thought he'd have to teach him. And the same thing happened. Deku heard about what happened to Ingenium, Ida's brother, and he was worried. Finding out where Stain would be and which one Ida was taking, he figured it out. So whenever he figured what happened, he speed blitzed everywhere. He found the hero killer Stain. Only he wasn't so hero killer, he was more completely confused, because he'd seen what happened during the sports festival. He'd watched it after he got back home. And what does he notice? There's just one guy who's so fucking strong that he one-shots everything in his path. That's crazy. No one's done that. As they were confused who this guy really was, they were honestly given an answer. He was the strongest one there. The one no one could defeat. He was Izuku Midoriya. And this is when he was trying to think of a name, a hero name. They saw all needed one. So what does he choose? He doesn't go with Deku. He goes for the name Him. Actually, I'd say he still goes for the name Deku. Only because, it's still what he was called most of his life, so he still went over with it. Now, what does that mean? He's ready for a fight. A real one. Not a hold-back fight. A real one. When he took on Stain, that was a full-on fight. Although, like I said, it takes much to cut even his skin. Deku doesn't have the same mental capabilities as Stain, so he was still slowing down. But Deku had so much power that he flexed it, and Stain actually went with full force and was only barely able to scratch Deku's skin. As thick as it was barely able to get a drop of blood. And that was with a full, shredded type swing. It just tore up Deku's shirt, which at this point, he's just getting really tired of buying black tank tops. He's still gonna do it, but he's just getting tired of it. So, as he would basically pull the black tank, as he would basically see, so you got me. As he would tear it off, let's go. As he went to stab, and actually got stabbed, clean into his stomach, he would look eye to eye with Stain. Stain noticing there was barely even a dent, and barely a drop of blood on the knife. He was stabbing with a full-force sword. And what happens? As Stain pulls that little drop of blood to his face, as he would lick it off, saying, "You're a lot more hassle than you're worth, kid." A minute later, he still texts Todoroki. Todoroki froze, tries to free Stain. When Deku got unfrozen, he cracks his neck. You know, that's a really useful power. You'd be a great hero. Hearing this, it was surprised, as we would be able to get to see just how broken freezing an opponent in place with blood really is. Although this is whenever Endeavor would still be the one who had to take the thing, say he's the one who did it, and all that would happen. Although in this version, Deku knew what happened. Everyone really knew what happened. They saw that this kid, and Endeavor even said, without their quirks, they would have been very badly injured. I had these kids helping me, and under my guidance, I allowed them to use their quirks to subdue villains. The hero killer, as we put it, didn't touch these children. He was going to hurt them until I had stepped in. They are not hurt, and they won't be hurt. Besides, I highly doubt that anyone could have hurt them, seeing that how fast this Ida kid is, and how strong this other kid is. Because you would see just how different it was. Hearing that even Endeavor thought this kid was so strong that the hero himself wasn't needed, since he felt that if it needed, Izuku could easily one-shot the guy, which is what Izuku actually did in canon. Actually, it's what he did in this version, but hearing that, everyone was like, wow, there's really a new hero who could be that guy. And even Endeavor admits it, how strong the guy is. Although, the same thing had happened, and All Might didn't need to be there since he felt he wasn't really necessary for it. As strong as Deku was, this little thing wouldn't be a big deal. They would still all be sent at the same time, but in this version, it was whoever made it to the camp first got a prize, and they would get to find out what the prize was. And as the vehicle made it there, Deku was sitting there waiting on them. They looked him in the eyes and said, "How'd you get here so fast?" As if he was just honest. "I just know where the location is. Y'all told us where to go, and I trusted everyone could handle it." They all said, "Yeah, we can handle it." And Bakugo said, "Don't you call me weak, Deku." So I left with a few people. As you would get to see just who he left with, is you would see Ochako, Froppy, and all the girls from the class were there. How'd y'all make it here? Well, the guys are being annoying, so we kind of just used our quirks with Deku's to win. And all the guys have just barely made it there at the end of the day. It's like midnight, and they're like, "We may." Actually, not midnight. They would all make it there like way past, like a few hours, like before, just like 20 minutes before dinner. As Deku's already made everything. Said, "Alright, bon appetit." Everyone ate, enjoyed it, and said, "Wow, this is actually really good. I wasn't expecting it." "Why would you aren't you expecting it?" "Well, I mean, I've never seen you cook before." Fair point, but still. As they would all actually really enjoy it and go to bed. They would still go to the hot springs. Midnight would try perving, but he was stopped by Deku. Since Deku whenever he climbed up, Deku grabbed him by the wrist and threw him back down. When Koda fell down, Deku caught him, brought him to the heroes, well, to, the wild pussycats and all that, and then would actually finish his hot springs, and then whenever, the nighttime thing would happen, whenever the villain would attack the villains, Deku found Koda. And what does Koda do? Has to have a 1v. Koda's about to fight Muscular, because Muscular's going to kill him. Deku jumps in and one-shot Muscular to the ground. Muscular went to his full force state and said, "I'm unstoppable!" As he went for full force hits, Deku caught each one of them and said, "No, you're just a little bit bigger than you need to be." As he palm-striked Muscular to the gut, which would blow the muscles off of his body. Every punch just started ripping apart Muscular. In the end, he was just bloodied, beaten, and knocked clean on his ass. Tied up in quirk-suppressing cuffs that could not be broken. As you would see, wow, that guy was tough. Had him with 100% to knock him out. As he would basically see what happened, same thing with Bakugo would happen, but in this version, when Bakugo got taken, as he barely wasn't able to grab him, and it was less about speed, more about the guy just teleporting away. He still ripped that guy's, jacket clean off. It tore off in Deku's hand. He slipped out of it so he could escape Deku. As you would hear, "Damn fast foot." As you would hear, "That's enough. Bye-bye." As Bakugo was taken, Deku was rage-filled. They would go back to UA and everything would happen. But in this version, the same group was needed. But in this version, when Deku went there, it wasn't the same thing. You hear pizza delivery. Everyone looks. Who could it be? It's All Might with a pizza. Or at least Delivery Man All Might not clean the fuck in the walls. Whenever Deku caught him, he chucked Bakugo with the group and told him to get the fuck out of there. What do you mean? Since All For One would still happen, the same thing would happen. All Might goes there, and Deku speed blitzed behind him, actively faster than him. And Endeavor even thought, this is going to be a fight. Knowing he was too far to even try to help, so he would just leave it to All Might. Being that there was the 3 strongest people. And even though Endeavor would even note that Deku and All Might are probably stronger than him. As he'd smile a little bit, saying, "There's nothing those two can't win." As we get to see just how strong he really is. As whenever All Might's about to fight All For One, he's still deflated. When All Might was going to land that punch, All for One shot out of his other hand like he was going to kill All Might. For Deku to hit him with full force, and you hear, United States of Smash infinite percentage through the left punch. That one shot, as it was basically actually he would go for an even fight with punch with All Might, as he would both kind of crush All for One between the two punches. As you would see how strong Deku really had been, as he would still be standing with one arm up. All Might saying, "You are my you're next." As you would hear, "You're next," as he was pointing at Deku with his fist in the air. And some people took that as, was that kid a villain? No, he just took out a villain. As this is when Endeavor would show up after flying there the full force of his fire. As he would land, he said, "That boy is the strongest." I'd say he's almost as strong as All Might. Little did they know he was actually stronger, but whatever. He would state, "That boy is a true hero. He is Deku." Now, as All Might was held up by Deku and they went to the hospital, All Might had lost One for All completely. He was already fighting off embers in the cannon, so there was barely like a spark left whenever he hit All for One. So yeah, when Deku hit that other one, it was perfected knockout. But I'd say this would actually destroy All for One, almost killing him. Emphasis on almost. Now the same events would so far occur. Whenever they would still train again, all that would happen. Now this is when we get to see the 18 plus part of this. As Deku's hanging out with a group of girls all in the dorm. Because they're doing the dorm thing now. And what does he do? The girls want to play a game. Spin the bottle. What no one ever was told is that the bottle was made so that no matter how many times it was spun, it would land on any random one and Deku. It would always make it where the girls would land on Deku. And Deku had an idea. He spun it fast, with enough speed, because he could tell what something was wrong. He knew that the girls would have it set to that, so he wound up picking out who he wanted to kiss first. First, he went with Uraraka, then he went with Momo, then Sue, then Ashui, the acid girl, and then the invisible girl. It just kept doing that, going 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, to a point where no one else had it. As you would hear, well, isn't that perfect? It's confusion. What do you mean, isn't that perfect? As he said, well, I already got a kiss with all of you. As you would hear, well, you're gonna get more than that. He said, what? Looking at them as, in the end of the night, after the next morning, he wakes up in one of the girls' rooms, wasn't even certain whose it was, saying, wow. Looking around, all the girls are on the bed with him. We all know what happened. Yeah, they went for it. He would brush his teeth, get ready, and go to class. All the girls would wake up a little bit later than him, since he decided to go his run and everything. The same thing would happen with Eri. Only in this version, he felt like something was wrong. But when they were in to storm the area, the same team was sent. But in this version, you hear full force. As you see Million running through walls. And that guy who destroys, he's breaking down things and everything. Like, you see Night Eye going really fast and everything telling out where to go. That's why he's fast at it. you get to see that everyone's going at full speed. And then you see Deku just running through the walls, 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch, 4, just randomly knocking the building down as he runs through it. You have one guy phasing through the wall, the other guy barreling behind him, bashing clean through. At one point, Deku went full speed and actually just started bashing through the walls in front of him. Until you just see doom 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 doom. They see Eri, they feel Overhaul. Overhaul goes after them. Overhaul doesn't do shit. He still tries sacrificing like 3 of his guys, but all that wound up doing was pissing them off. Since they would still attempt to sacrifice, he would still get all that power. Well, in this version, whenever Eri was instead of Night Eye going down with that one stab, it was caught by Deku slapping it away. When Miriam started getting shot by a bullet, Deku flicked those away too. He stood tall in front of them. Every single punch knocking Overhaul around. As Eri would heal up Deku, who only messed up his hand when he did a 1,000,000,000,000% punch, completely ripping apart Overhaul. Now both of his arms and legs were still there, his regular ones, since he had used that to go back to normal. Afterwards, as he would hit the floor, Deku would just pick him up and say, "You're going down," putting him in quirk suppressing handcuffs and everything. But getting a little bit of revenge, as he would just straight up start slapping Overhaul around. No quirk needed, just beating the crap out of him afterwards. As they would see Night Eye come in, start stomping him out too. Overhaul was just getting stomped out at this point. They would take him down to Tartarus, where All for One is kept. And Stain is too, because Deku still put him in prison. Now, they would still catch Kurogiri, find out it was actually one of, the best friends of Eraserhead, and then they would find something else out. They would find out how strong, All for One really was whenever he broke out. Now, in this version, when he broke out, it was not the same fight. It was not a fight he was ready for. He breaks out, he gets dropped. He breaks out, he gets dropped. He thought because the symbol of peace was gone, he'd be fine, but no, Deku was the symbol of peace, the new holder of One for All. He would still transfer to Shigaraki, and all that would still happen. He would still go to 100% of his prime. But whenever Deku would fight them, there was no Stiper, no Stars and Stripes, no one was needed. He just flew in full force with one shot. Boom, knocked out Shigaraki. Boom, knocked out All for One. But he didn't stop there. He knew that these guys were pure evil. As he 100% ripped them to shreds. Literal shreds. As their blood was all over his hands, he was showered in it. Keep in mind, this is what it would look like. His shirt ripped, just a cover of red. Now, of course, he was still fucked up by it, but this was what he was wearing before the fight. This is all he had after. Since he was so beaten up, and he noticed how exhausted he was, this is where we're ending it off at the end of the series. As Deku's become a hero already, he's the number 1. Cut to the future, where he actually has kids. Eventually, he decided to settle down with Uraraka as his main girl, and that was it. And that's the end of this What If, guys. Have a good day.